Right, so quite incredibly, it seems, after just 4 months in the political wilderness, really does seem an awful lot longer. Liz Truss, our shortest tenured Prime Minister ever, a woman whose epic economic stupidity cost the country £30 billion virtually overnight with her uncosted tax cuts, almost collapsed our economy entirely. With the Bank of England, never mind putting up interest rates to stupidly try and fight inflation as it was then, had to put them up again to fight the country's unelected then PM's idiocy. She was effectively toppled by her own party, forced into a resignation for the damage she caused. Her and Kwasi Kwarteng, the Chancellor who backed this crackpot economics, and her response to that was apparently, oh, well, at least I got to be Prime Minister, like it's some kind of dress up and playtime. It shouldn't be forgotten that although she was only Prime Minister for 8 weeks, half of that time was taken up with a mourning period for the Queen, who died 2 days after appointing Truss as PM. Imagine the damage she could have done if she'd had the full 8 weeks, given what she managed in a month. Anyway, after 4 months out of cabinet on the backbenches, evidently getting itchy feet, Truss thinks she deserves a comeback. She's written a frankly hysterical puff piece in the ever-loyal Torygraph today, which absolutely reeks of think tank influence, blaming pretty much everyone, except her own plans, of course, except herself, which literally almost tanked our economy. Does she blame her own party to any extent? Let's begin with that. And yes, she does, to an extent. There's a surefire way to attract support for another push back into a position of responsibility, isn't it? She's had numerous roles over the years that she's held, basically because she will flip her beliefs and her political opinions on their head whenever it suits her. But of course, there's this new group of Truss acolytes who still think she was right as well, and are telling her so. And they formed a new party within the Tory party, as if it needed another one, called the Conservative Growth Group, still wedded to the idea of low tax and high deregulation, and all the damage and all the economic calamity that caused. And that's a sizable number of backbench halfwits to pressure our weakling Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, who doesn't respond to pressure particularly well, into perhaps putting his predecessor, the half-wit-in-chief Truss, back into cabinet at the earliest opportunity. Apparently, she had also been made a scapegoat for problems that had been brewing for some time. Well, the Tories have been in power for 13 years, so that's a 13-year problem to me. But when you consider that Truss, through her regular changing of her convictions, had managed to stay continuously in government, no matter who led it, consistently from 2012, those problems were no doubt something she'd have been a part of. Pathetic excuses from a political pygmy. But back to Truss's blame game. She's also taken aim at what she refers to as the left-wing economic establishment for taking her down. Well, who knew the establishment was so left-wing? I must have missed the bit where the media and all their hangers-on came out in vehement support of a Corbyn-led country, enthralled by his idea of taxing the rich more to make the country more equal. Who knew those billionaire press barons were prepared to take a hit and had such an altruistic streak? And who would have guessed after all of these years Rupert Murdoch has been having us on and was really a closet lefty? If the country was so left-wing, it wouldn't have been sucked into thinking Jeremy Corbyn's economic plans would crash the economy, when it was Trussonomics that literally almost did. You very nearly delivered what your own party lied about Corbyn over during the last election campaign. And still, she's still saying, despite the damage her politics did, that her ideas were right. She has 50 MPs on the Tory backbenches apparently agreeing with her, but it's the media's fault for being too left-wing. And she's blamed all of us as well, all the voters. We're all apparently too left-wing, which makes Tory governments themselves all the more astonishing, surely. We're all too left-wing, apparently, to understand what she was trying to do. We just don't get it, and should put our faith in her that she knows what she's doing. Except she's already had a go at it. It created an economic disaster in the midst of a cost of living crisis already, so we know it failed. It doesn't matter whether you're left-wing or right-wing. It failed. We saw it. We felt it. We're still living with the fallout from it. And she has the nerve to say she wants another go. She wants Sunak to copy her, despite even he being savvy enough to have warned ahead of time what would happen if she pressed ahead. And so it did. Who is in her ear, constantly bigging her up to the point she still thinks she was in the right, that everyone else was wrong and she deserves another go? She doesn't have the wherewithal to be put in charge of an egg cup, let alone any level of political responsibility. And the only members of the public less savvy than she is are the ones prepared to, even now, still put a tick on a ballot paper next to her name. Even by Tory standards, she is ridiculous beyond the pale. Her blame game didn't even stop there, though. It was also Joe Biden's fault, somehow. It was those woke lefties at the Bank of England's fault for blocking a run on the pound. The markets, though I feel the need to ask, does that also include pork markets, Liz? Because if so, they are a disgrace. Who else was there? The pensions regulator was to blame. The Treasury was to blame, which is Somewhat hilarious considering Truss spent 2 years working in the Treasury and still somehow doesn't understand how pensions work or anything else in that department, it would seem. Government communications were to blame. Well, if people don't understand you, I can't say I blame them. And of course, the ever-present blob of vested interests, all conspiring against her. She literally started a run on the pound, and it's everyone else's fault who didn't get it. Apparently, one Tory in response to all of this has said she's more deranged than we previously thought, and I think that's a bloody understatement. She said upon entering Downing Street, I expected my mandates to be respected. But hold on there, Lizzie. You had no mandate except to continue the manifesto pledges made by your party at the last election. Because you were not elected, Liz. Your own membership crowning you does not a mandate to make. You never went to the people about it and the damage you caused. Go on, quibble over your mandate to people whose mortgage payments you doubled is a massive reason as to why I think every time a new prime minister is required, it should trigger a general election. We're now on our second unelected prime minister, and that isn't democracy. Politicians have often said their careers always end in failure, but it's a special elite few who can fail as badly as someone like Liz Truss and think they deserve a comeback and a return to frontline politics. It's a sign of a massively overblown ego. And you only need to look to others who've said similarly, your David Camerons, your Tony Blairs, and the public responses to such things speaks volumes. They're both about as welcome as a dose of the clap. But whilst Truss has got crazy backbenchers from the think tanks of Tufton Street in her ear, it's little wonder she believes otherwise. I wonder when the last time Truss actually talked to ordinary people in her constituency and asked them for an opinion. Honestly, I think she'd be better off staying where she is, putting her feet up, watching her Netflix, which she charges to her expenses, and hope that what remains of her political career manages to outlast a lettuce this time.